So here's what we're not going to do. We are not going to make a promotional video for the vendors, and we're also not going to make essentially run-on sentences where the viewer just is watching the same thing over and over again, wondering when the next thing's going to happen. Typical example of this would be showing 20 different angles of the bride having portraits taken of herself without weaving that into a story. We are going to tell a story. Every single clip is going to make sense in the form of that story. It's going to add to the story. Things that don't add to the story just won't be used or will be used elsewhere. That story is a wedding. And the format for this video is going to be as follows. I have on the screen a partially a video that has already been started to be edited. This is a full-length wedding again, not a trailer. So we're going to go through that first minute or so that has already been edited. I'm going to break down what I did and why I did it, and then we're going to take it from there. And with that, we're going to get into it. This is, as of this video, I've mostly switched over to DaVinci Resolve, but this edit is being done in Premiere. You're also going to be watching footage that was shot in log and has not been color graded at all yet. So footage will be a little flat, and we're going to be using proxies so it may not be the best of quality. Alright, we're going to start with, let's just watch the footage and then I'll break it down. Alright, so that's it for right now. We're going to go back to the beginning. The audio track you're hearing in the background was bought from audiojungle.com. It's called Beautiful Path. I'll try to put a link in the description to it, but it was purchased. I have a license to use it for this video. So we're going to start with an establishing shot. I'm not going to show a shot of the venue because that's not what this video is about. I want something that kind of tells you you're about to watch a wedding. In this case, I went with a shot of the gown, except that I didn't want to open up with a shot of the gown. I didn't think that looked right. I wanted something a little more abstract that the screen could open up to. So I found this close-up, just a shot going around the gown a little bit. I don't care at this point if you realize that you're looking at a wedding gown or if it just looks like lace or the curtain of a window. It makes no difference. It's a great opening shot that's kind of in the theme of the wedding. Right? And that shot then takes us into the wide of that same shot, which is the gown hanging down. And then at this point, you're being told that you're about to watch a wedding video. I'm not going to go and start showing all different angles of the gown and different shots. That's not the purpose. There was a phenomenal photographer at this wedding who has gorgeous pictures of the gown. Bride and groom can have those pictures. My purpose is to tell a story, and at this shot, you've been told that you're about to watch a wedding video. You see the gown. You saw a quick close-up of the gown. If this was a promotion for the gown maker, I'd keep showing the intricate details of the gown. I'm not going to do that here because throughout the remainder of the video, which will be over an hour long, you're going to see more of that gown I don't need to bore you with those details. Right. So we have the gown, and now we're going to introduce the bride. I'm going to introduce her not by showing her face, but we're still, it's still kind of in introduction mode, and we're just going to stick with something a bit more abstract. You see her back, she was wearing a sweater that says bride on the back. Right? And I'm not showing these clips actually being assembled, but none of these shots were actually shot in the order that you're seeing them. They were reassembled in an order that makes sense, and that's really the most important thing as a storyteller, that the viewer should be able to follow a story beginning to end. It doesn't really make a difference what order things were shot in, and you're going to see that point very clearly right here. The next shot, we have the bride next to the gown. Right, so we had the gown, then we showed the bride. You can't really see what she's doing. She happens to be playing around with her bouquet of flowers, which you'll see again in a moment. But you see a bride, and then you see the bride also from the back, a wider shot, and you see that she's standing next to her gown. For all intents and purposes, the shot right before this, she's also standing next to her gown. So she stands next to her gown. The photographer was having her bring some hair across to the front before reaching up. I'm actually going to show what the shot actually was. So she reached up, and then she took pictures holding her gown like that. I don't need that for a video, but I do have this shot of her reaching up towards the gown. Now you know that the gown is hanging, so we're going to see her kind of adjust her hair and then reach up for the gown, and then the shot just cuts out. The very next shot is her taking that gown down. In this specific shot, it happens to have been almost 10 minutes earlier, taking the gown out of the closet, which if you pause the video and look at it closely, you can see that. But what matters to us right here is she reaches her hand up, and then she takes the gown down. We're bringing you into the preparations of the wedding. This next shot kind of doesn't follow the sequence, but I specifically wanted one more shot before I began the next segment of this edit, and this was the only other shot that I had that wouldn't have been repetitive, where the bride is still wearing that same vest, and we kind of have a similar angle. So it's not my favorite pick for a next shot, but it does work. She takes down the gown, and then we see her adjusting her bouquet. That works. It's the bride getting ready for a wedding. At this point, I could keep going with footage of prep and getting makeup done and getting hair done. That I don't feel that really adds to the story. The storyline is, hey, we have a bride, she's getting married today, she's getting ready, and in the first 20 seconds of this video we've accomplished that, and I don't think it really needs any more. Alright, you'll notice on my timeline these clips are color-coded. I did that for my own organizational purposes. These pink clips are shots of the bride, these blue clips are shots of the groom. It's not going to be 1000% consistent, but more or less these blue clips will be shots of the groom. Orange will be decor and details, so just stuff of the hall. And green and purple will mean other things, which I'm not going to go into right now, but it's I'm marking clips that I want to be able to reference later. Alright, so now in the final edit there will be some sort of transition here, maybe a dip to black or some sort of dissolve. I'll figure it out. For right now it's the bride getting ready, and then we're going to jump into the groom getting ready. Alright, so now we have the groom. You know, what's actually happening and what I need you to believe is happening is, you know, it's completely different. He's actually already wearing his tuxedo, and he's just happens to be hanging up what he was wearing before. But it doesn't matter. You see a groom. He's doing something to do with prep, putting pants on a hanger. Right now he's buttoning his suspenders, putting on his cufflinks. In this specific case, the cufflinks do have sentimental value. They had belonged to the groom's grandfather. So, in other cases where I may have shown a tie or some other form of prep, I did want a shot of the cufflinks where you actually see the cufflinks very clearly. And then putting on a shoe, it's the groom getting ready. This pocket watch as well had belonged to his grandfather, so I'm going to feature it maybe a bit excessively. It's also a very cool watch. It's an actual antique. This key kind of came out from the inside of it and to wind it up. And he's not staging it in this case. He was actually winding the watch. So he's winding the watch, and then I have him clipping it on. I think in the one before, it actually is already clipped. So I may eventually, when I do the final run through, I may zoom this in so you don't see the chain already being clipped. Then he's clipping it on, and pops it open, and then we have this cool shot, which after color grading this will look much more impressive. Alright, and now at this point, so you've been introduced to the bride and the groom, and the fact that these two are getting married today. You'll notice I haven't done the cliche shots of the venue. A very common start would be, a drone shot of the venue. You could actually see that in my bin over here. And a bunch of shots of, the chandelier and some of the decor. For this video, I'm not making a video about a venue. I'm making a video about a bride and groom. I want your first impression of this video to be that you're watching a video of a bride and groom. Once I've established that, then I can move on to other things. And I do that by creating a transition out of the editing itself. I let the clips line up in a way that they'll transition you from one event to another. And this is something I do regularly throughout an entire video. And we'll see that come into play again later on. So he's in this hotel room. You see the lamp in the background. You kind of see the bedboard a little bit. And now in this shot, you still see the bedboard. I don't remember what he was actually doing in this shot. This was the very first shot that I took in this room. But this is the first shot that you can see that he's in a hotel room. You see the bed. We are bringing the venue into the picture in some manner. And that goes to the next shot, which is outside the room, just a shot of the hallway. This shot does nothing for the video except to let you know that to continue driving the point that you're in a hotel. I only showed this shot of the bed for a split second, and instead of showing many shots of the venue for an extended period of time, I'm going to show just what I need for as little time as possible and just get the idea across that we're at a hotel and a little bit of what that hotel looks like. So we have a shot of the bed, right? And now at this point you're clued in to the fact that you're seeing a hotel. We have the hotel lobby, which we're going to use again later to take family portraits. You actually see the photographer's lamp set up there. I sped it up a drop. And then this speed ramp just goes into the one drone shot. I'm not a huge fan of drone shots, especially these cliche ones that are used and overused and way overused. Just going a few hundred feet up and shooting a shot of the venue where you mostly just see the roof doesn't interest me all that much. I was requested at this wedding to do some drone footage, so I got a few minutes of drone footage, and there we go. I'm going to throw it in, but it's not the first shot. It just plays into a sequence very well where we introduce the venue, and I'll play that again quickly. From the watch through just an introduction and a brief overview of the venue, the entire thing takes about 6 seconds. Okay, so we had a few shots of the venue, right? Inside, outside, inside again. This inside shot here ends off with a shot of the piano, and that piano is going to be my lead off into the next segment, which is going to be Portraits of the Groom. Now, I find it a complete waste of time to just show portraits of the groom. And same with the bride. It's those events were photography related, and unless I can somehow tie it into the telling of a story, I try to shy away from using too much of it. So here we have this piano, and the very next shot is going to be the groom sitting down at the piano. There's going to be a few shots in a row now that were not shot in log, so you'll see a much more contrasted color. Again, everything's going to be corrected, and the color doesn't really make a difference for right now. Right, so he's sitting down at the piano. So that, right, we've showed you this piano, and then we have the groom sitting down. It just so happens to be it's not even the same piano, but I shot it, at similar angles to make sure that these clips would work one into another. Right. And then just a few shots of him playing. So he sat down, and then we have a shot of him playing, and a shot of him playing. The reason I'm not letting you hear the audio is because he was not actually playing. The hotel did not want us using the piano, but they did allow us to take pictures in front of it. Right. So he sits down, and we have him playing the piano. This more close-up shot, even though he's still playing the piano, but you get a little more intimate and close with him, and you can see that he's thinking about something. For all I know, he's thinking about not ruining the piano, although for the sake of the story, he's going to be thinking about his bride, which is the very next shot. So again, I'm opening up, when I make a transition like this, I don't want you to have to do a double take of, wait, what just happened? So we're entering the mind of this groom, within this story, and he's thinking about the bride. But the very next shot can't be the bride because it's too big of a jump for the viewer to make that transition mentally. So he's thinking about something, and we have this abstract shot of essentially an completely out of focus floor with the gown walking by, the bride is walking by, and later on in the shot I bring it into focus, but since we want to play out entering into someone's mind, it's okay for that beginning of it to be blurry, and I may actually use a fade or a zoom transition to bring in the shot, right? So the bride walks, right, and then we're going to show the bride. This is between two poses, and the photographer had her lean down to grab her dress. So I don't care for the pose itself. As far as we're concerned, in this video, we are not taking portraits just yet. So I actually took that moment, which is not going to be used in photography, of the bride being posed. She leans down to grab her dress. Now I have this different shot from a completely different time, where she grabs her dress again to do a spin, and I think the spin just looks cool here, so we'll throw it in. These clips, however, do line up perfectly. So, right, and she spins. She ends with this smile, which it's more than just a regular smile. She's enjoying herself. She's excited for the rest of the day. And again, we're going to play into the look in her face. It's going to be, I have a groom down the hall, and I can't wait to see him. So, we jump back to the groom. He's not at the piano anymore, he's sitting down, but he's still thinking. Right, so we had this bride's beautiful smile, jumps right into the groom. It's going to keep going back and forth of the two of them thinking of each other, about each other. This was all shot with one camera, so all the different angles and different shots that you're seeing are just the camera being moved around in ways, changing lenses, in ways that they make sense. So I had this close-up, right? And then I have him sitting at... Why is my shot frozen? I don't know. Okay, something wrong with the proxy file there, so I turned on the proxies. So he has this kind of half smile smirk on his face. In the next shot, in order to make the shots line up, again, these are not the same shot. They weren't shot at the same time. They were shot a few minutes apart. I looked for a moment where he kind of has the same expression with his head facing the same way. And he goes into a smile. That is where this video is up to right now. At this point, our YouTube video is going to get a little more tedious and boring. We are going to begin editing. So here's what we have here on the timeline. Down here, these clips are The Last Dance. We're going to just work our way backwards. It's a Jewish religious wedding. There's a series of blessings and the grace after meal, followed by some additional dancing at the end. This was, for what we're going to call, for the sake of this video, the second dance. This main segment here we're going to call the first dance. This area in the middle here that looks like it has more cameras, more angles, is the main ceremony, and that is actually completely edited already. It's not in real time. It was condensed a lot, similar to what I'm doing now, where I use things in a way that they would tell a nice story, make sense. It has to be kept long enough that it doesn't feel rushed. People, the people watching this afterwards know that they spent a significant amount of time at that ceremony, so in a full-length video, you need it to still come across as full length, but as you can see from here, the entire thing was done in 17 minutes. The actual length of the entire thing, I believe, was closer to 45 minutes, maybe even closer to an hour, so we've cut out an hour there. Then over here this was also edited already. This little segment here is what we're going to call the first look at a Orthodox Jewish wedding. This actually happens once the wedding has formally started. There's a point before the ceremony where the bride and groom see each other for the first time during the day. So, as opposed to this happening much earlier in the day during portraits, this is done to joyous music with people clapping and watching. It's meant to be more of a joyous moment rather than an intimate moment. We'll get to that a little bit later in the edit as well. Before that is all of the footage of prep and portraits. There's portraits being taken. Starting this segment here is the more formal, I guess we'll call it cocktail hour. And we're going to continue using that to build our edit. Again, this video is going to get a little more tedious now because I'm editing this from scratch. I don't know yet what I'm going to do. I'm just going to look for things that kind of make sense. So, alright, so we have the groom sitting there. Let me see what other clips I have here. Here's a shot of the groom walking. I can use that later for... Here's another shot of the piano. I've already utilized the piano, so I'm actually going to delete that clip. These walking shots, I'll find something to use them for. This again is more prep. I'm not going to use it in this video. In a trailer, I may tie some of that in. Okay, so these prep shots right now, we're not going to do that. Okay, then I have a few shots of the bride walking from point A to point B. I may tie that in together with the groom walking. More of the spin from before. Okay, we have these shots of the photographer doing things. That's going to play a role in the story. So let's see. I don't need that for anything. I don't need a shot of the pool for anything. I took a shot of the pool in case they ended up using it later on in the wedding. Okay, so right now I am gonna use. So I don't know what I'm gonna be doing yet. So I'm just lifting these clips out of the timeline, and I'll decide if I want to do something with them soon. We are going to jump to shots of the bride. So if I'm going to use that clip of the photographer, I'm going to need the bride to be indoors. These are nice. These work for me. This is definitely the most interesting shot from that set. Alright, these two shots work together. We'll lift those out, and I'm gonna... Alright, see now it's easy for me to find those clips and bring them here. This long clip we're gonna get to later. Let me just move it down. We're gonna put these over here now. So we have, before we do that, we're gonna find this clip of the groom, and I'm just gonna see if there's anything else here in this set. Nope, the very next clip, he is walking. Okay. Groom, thinking. Okay. This shot here, we're going to reverse the speed of it. Reverse the clip, and now it's going to be the photographer changing a setting, kneeling down and getting ready to take the photo. And now it doesn't matter that this shot here is not the photo he was actually getting ready to take. I'm pretty sure that shot was the bride spinning from earlier. But it works. He's taking a photo, and then you see the bride sitting there. We are, I guess so to speak, peeking in on the bride who's in the next room. Only thing I do want to do is, we have these chairs in this lamp, and in the very next shot, I want to see if maybe there's a clip that will work in the middle there. So this one would work, because you see where the groom was sitting out there, and the photographer was actually standing next to me. This might actually work. That might do what I need. Let me see if there's a better one. It's just a cake. So I'm looking only at these orange clips now, which are, for the most part, just decor and details. I'm not going to make a whole sequence of decor and details. I'm really just going to mix them in so that you end up seeing them, but not, being made to watch them excessively. we're actually going to use this hallway clip. And the hallway clip goes here, and now we just put it all back there. I don't know yet if this is going to work, but what's basically happening is I'm using the clips to make the transition, the mental transition for you. So these chairs that the groom is sitting on are those chairs out there. There was another clip. I know I had a clip from... Let's see, footage. Wasn't the A camera, it was the B camera. Here we go. Okay, so these are the chairs that the groom was sitting on before. But now he's not sitting on them. So if we're going to go from him sitting on the chairs to magically not sitting on the chairs, we need a reason why he's not there anymore. So the reason why he's not going to be there is going to be he walked away. Right, so these two right here are the groom walking away. Put them there. They aren't timed with the music yet. Okay, that's too abrupt. That one first, and let's see how it looks. Okay. We have the groom. We have the photographer kneeling. We don't really know what he's kneeling at yet, so that's fine. He kneels, and we're just going to go with the photographer kneeling. I think for right now that makes the most sense. He kneels and then takes a picture of the... So we're going back to the original. I wanted to stick one more clip in there to help transition it, but I think it works. So she's looking down at her flowers as that clip ends, and then we're going to change angles, and we're going to see her look up. And I don't want that head shake, so we're just going to slide over the clip just to the point where she looks up. Okay, that works. Okay, she's sitting there. Okay, so I know what I could put here now. We have the shot of. So we're gonna use a venue shot. Like I said, we're gonna tie in shots of the venue in places where they just make sense. So this shot right here is those same doors that the bride is sitting at on the right side of the screen. So over here, we're having a picture taken of her. She then, right, we're seeing her through those doors. Now we're just seeing a different angle of it. We can take this far back shot here and put it right in there. Again, we're going to reverse it. I want it to be pulling away from them. Alright, so far enough away that you can't see that the bride magically disappeared. We are going to add a stabilizer to this. Alright. Let's nest this clip. And add the stabilizer that way. Okay. I've now opened up the door to showing a little more of the venue. So I'm just going to decide what I want to show. Don't need the cake at this point. I don't need people yet. The very next shot, the next set of shots will have the groom near this fireplace. So that might actually work in our favor. There was a shot. I gotta find it. There we go. The bride is looking in. Okay, so we have the shot of the bride looking in at the venue. So she's actually, if you look on the left side over here, she's actually gone right through those doors. See if there's any more of that clip of the bride actually walking in. No, but I do know that there's a shot of her later on. Okay, so we're gonna take nonlinear editing to an extreme now. So I have that shot of her walking in. I have a shot later on in the wedding of the bride walking the other way down this hall. I believe it was right before second dance. People get so tied up in using things in the order that they happened. Alright, so one of these shots here, take a moment to find it. I believe it was closer to the end. This one. Right, we have the bride walking down the hall towards that room. I'm going to see if that works. This happens to be all the way at the end of the wedding. Thank God for non-linear editing. So, right, we've gone through those doors. And I also have that other shot of the bride walking, but that scene was too different. Now, the only thing that's going to throw you off here is that out these windows is nighttime, when everything else is clearly day. I also don't want to have too much of a focus on the people at this point, so I'm going to take a version of the shot towards the end. Right, she's just talking to a friend. Right, she's talking, she's having fun. Not that. We've done that already. Next we need the bride sitting in here. Okay, the only thing I don't like here is I actually do not like that, so we're gonna just backtrack a little bit until this clip gets out. And we're gonna let that clip go back to where it was originally in the timeline. We're gonna go for something else. Right after the main ceremony. Maybe here. Yep. See, it helps to know your shots. So I have these 3 shots of the room, the main ballroom. Now, the reason I'm putting the main ballroom here is because the entrance to the main ballroom is actually right through those doors. So now over here you see the cake in the background, so I think that might be as good a time as ever to show a shot of our cake. And there we go, shot of the cake. We have more shots of the cake later before they cut it. The table that the bride and groom sat at during the dinner. This is it's the hand sanitizer for the coronavirus wedding, telling everyone to wear masks. Obviously it doesn't look nice, but it's part of the story. And the last thing I need, we'll have to find it. Not that. Okay, these candle shots I might use later at the end of the video. This is part of the table setting. So we're going to put that in right now. As well as that, and there's going to be a reason for that. You'll see why in a moment. I don't need sound for most of these shots, so I don't really care if I lose little bits of sound here and there. Alright, let's put those here. And then let's just review what we did here. Not that one yet. First I need this one of the table setting. And now we could stick in the coronavirus, we'll call it the Ode to Coronavirus. That's it, it's just gotta be in there. I'm not gonna focus on it. Okay, so now let's review our story and make sure it makes sense. So, photographer Niels, he's taking pictures of the bride, and she looks up. I'm going to see what this all looks like if we reverse things a little bit. So I think it's going to flow a little better. Let's reverse that so that she starts off looking at the camera and then looks up. So he kneels, she begins looking at the camera, but then she looks down at her flowers. And then through these doors, we're seeing her, and then the next shot will be those doors. I think that makes a little more sense. Right, now, I could have done in this video an entire sequence in the beginning of just decor and details. You know, then you start off, you're doing the two things which I started off saying that I'm not going to do, which were make this into a promo for the vendors. If you just show a minute-long sequence of the venue, that's essentially what you're doing. And then boring people with, when am I going to get to the next thing? Yes, people want to see the venue, and it looks nice, but they didn't start playing this video to see the venue. They started playing the video, the bride and groom want to see their own wedding. Other people watching it, yes, there are going to be some that just want to see the venue. Maybe they're checking out that venue. But most people, relatives, family, friends, right, they want to see the wedding. The venue just happens to be the setting where the wedding's in, so woven into the story will be the pieces of the venue as they fit in. Now the change in the music also gives way to a change of setting. Okay, we're not going to show that for too long, just long enough that you can get a feel for the venue. And that clip will have to be stabilized. Right, and it also adds a little to the story that you see the bride looking at the table places. Right, so the sequence here is we see the tables, we see the bride looking at the tables, followed by a different kind of shot of the tables, and you see some of the decor. You do see the cake in the background, so the very next shot is a close-up of that cake. Okay, and then we just go to a different spot in the room, the bride and groom's table. And this was a essentially a party favor. It's a Hebrew prayer book, which was monogrammed and has their names on the front. Alright. And then we can go to this. So I'm just going to make things line up with the music a little better. Right. Okay. Let's save. I'm going to watch what I just did, and then we're going to take it. This shot right here will lead us into the actual wedding. I noticed that there are a lot of bride and groom portraits which I haven't used yet. I haven't even touched on family yet. It's going to be woven in a few moments. And if you're still watching at this point, you'll see how I'm going to try to weave it in at least. You know, the worst thing that could happen is that it won't work, and I'll have to redo this little beginning segment. In the meantime, though, and it seems like Premiere just froze on me. So we might have to give it a moment, and that's why I periodically save. While we're waiting for that to restart, this is one of the main reasons that I have since switched to DaVinci Resolve. My screen recorder is actually only recording Premiere, so you're going to see the screen go blank now, which is fine for right now. We're going to have Premiere up and running again in a moment. I'm going to do a video at some point of the things I've liked about DaVinci Resolve better than Premiere. There are certainly some things that I miss about it. Of course, DaVinci Resolve is free, but once you get past that, there are some things that they built into it really, really nicely. But you know, maybe Adobe will implement one day. Maybe they won't. Just things that make sense and actually make editing easier. Here I have that. Let's save again while we're waiting for things to load. Alright, we have the groom walking shots and the hallway. Does not appear that I'm going to end up using it in this video, but I'm not getting rid of it yet, because there is a place that I could use it. So we're just going to put these back over here. So this little sequence here is groom. At this point, I'm going to get rid of all of my prep shots. So the way I do this is I actually have two versions of this. One of them I've called highlight video. Under highlight video, I have this entire sequence untouched. So when I'm removing things now, I'm not undoing my work of having gone through that footage. And some of this I will purposely use in the highlight in order that you should see different stuff, not to repeat shots. So all of these shots from scenes that I've already done. Groom getting ready. Alright, so all these are going to go. And I may use them in a highlight. Now there is a few shots here of the groom. This is with his father. Again, I'm going to have to use this in the highlight. It's a really nice scene of his father helping him get ready. That'll be something in the highlight that will add something special to that clip. Right, and then it goes to actually, I'm not going to get rid of all those just yet. It may make sense to put we're going to take two of these, and I may replace some of the less interesting shots over here. Maybe the suspenders, maybe putting on the shoes. I'll have to decide. Right now I'm just going to put the footage up there, not there. That's fine. Alright, we'll just put it up there, and I may drop it in there when I'm reviewing. Those are what we'll call meaningful moments. They are part of the wedding story. His dad did help him get ready, so it's important to throw it in there. Now, this area we already used before. We did not use any of the bridal portraits outside. I still will. These piano shots we've used already. And the groom in the bar with his family, we are getting ready to use that shortly. Okay. All right. Right, these shots here are just guests. Alright, so starting from here, this is all part of the wedding, where the wedding formally begins, the invitation time. I'm just going to put a little separation in there so that I can find that spot easier. We'll bring all those. These clips we're still going to be using. Not all of them, some of them. So, this last shot here was the liquor. I'm going to find where that shot is, and that shot is actually once the wedding has already begun. Okay. At this point, I want to bring the guests into the video. So we're going to go to where the wedding actually starts. My last shot is this shot of the alcohol. That wasn't the main bar, that was a little side table with some drinks. And we're going to find somewhere in these shots is going to be some close-ups of the dad pouring one of those drinks. Oh, got a lot of beer. I'll use that later because I have a shot near the bar. Right, here's people getting ready to take a drink, so we're going to use that. I'm only looking through blue clips at this point because the blue clips are the ones where I know this moment happened. Okay, here we go. Come back to those guys. Okay. As I said, this video at this point does get a little more tedious because I am creating this edit entirely from scratch. So, meaning there's no templates. I don't have any ideas of how I'm going to do it, and it's very possible that I'll end up changing quite a bit. Right, so again, I'm going with these what I'm going to call mental transitions, where the clips just make sense. We changed the scene. We went from a set table, you see a platter of something in the background, to someone actually pouring, but it's still in the same world of a clip. I don't want to see him picking it up. I want to see him, because if I was using a shot of him actually picking it up, I would want it to be picking up from this. I would want to see this scene and someone picking up the food, picking up the drink from there. Over here, he's picking up that bottle that's wrapped in plastic, but he's picking it up from a different spot, and it's already open. So, to make it work, we're going to go to where he's just about pouring it already. We're actually going to start where it's actually pouring already. This lets your mind fill in what happened in between. If you see him picking it up, you know that the scenes don't match. If you see it on the table, followed by someone pouring it, you can piece together in your mind what happened in between. Alright, and then we're going to go to so that shot, you don't actually see them giving cheers. So we're going to go back to here and find the other more similar shot. Okay, this one, these guys here. Okay, here the dad has just handed someone a drink. But if we reverse this, we'll see him pick it up from the table and hand it to them. So, right there. And back to the beginning. Reverse that clip. You gotta be careful when reversing that nobody's actually walking backwards. You see in the beginning of this clip, we would have someone walking backwards. But if we start it from right here, right, so he pours it. You see him pick up the cup. It doesn't really matter what he does with the cup at that point. And then at the end of this, we do see someone take a drink. The picture isn't clear enough to actually see what's in his drink, so we're going to go with it. I actually do think he has alcohol in that drink. We'll find out when we color grade it. Right? So, I don't know if you notice how we subtly just brought guests into the picture. We have the decor, and then this alcohol, someone's pouring the alcohol. Right? And now, there's a whole bunch of clips where these are still our prep shots over here, which, like I said, we are going to come back to those. This was those walking shots. We will be coming back to those too. And this long shot is going to play a part in the intro, so let's leave it there as well. Now I'm going to have, now that I've introduced guests, we can, let's see, right, Groom with his guests. Right, this is going to be important. Now I want to use these shots of the hors d'oeuvres being given out. Here's a wider shot of that. I don't know which shots I'm going to use of that yet. Alright, but we have these 4 shots. And let's bring them here. This one only looks good until he brings his second hand in. And for all we know, that could be the same guy over there. So that's the reason that works. We know it's not because over here the waitress is not wearing a vest. And over here she has some kind of apron. But that's fine. Here's a slightly wider shot, although it's still technically a tight shot. It's actually the same people as before, so. I think these clips came one after another. So we're not going to do that in the video. It's actually all kind of the same people. So let's piece these together. Okay, I think that works. Alright, so now you kind of see guests mulling around. You can go from there to just some more shots of guests mulling around. We're going to avoid some of those empty ones. So we'll use that one. That one's nice. Here's the groom talking to his mom. But something interesting about this shot is that when it starts, you see the bar that was over there. So that will be useful a little later. Groom with his mom and dad. Here's the grandmother watching. I think she's watching pictures. These two shots are gonna go together in a moment. Right, so for right now, I'm using these two shots of guests. A close-up of grandma watching. I'm going to be using these two. And then I had a shot, there we go, grandma sitting in the same place. Okay. These three shots could go right here. And we're going to jump back to the groom. Right, now at this point in the video, we're actually only 2 minutes into the entire video. So, what do you know? We're not showing these clips for long. You'll see all these people plenty late. I don't need that, it's the same shot. Right, now this and this is kind of the same, so I'm not going to use that yet. And again, I'm not going to use that shot yet because I know where I want to use it. Alright, so what I'm going to do at this point here is bring in this longer clip. This longer clip is it's a marriage document. It's a Jewish marriage document done by Orthodox Jewish Weddings. Traditionally, this was actually done, it's not the marriage contract, it's an agreement between the two families as to the details of the wedding, the place, the location, and who's responsible for what. The tradition dates back hundreds of years, and historically this was done in the months leading up to the wedding. You know, the two families would sit down and, you know, have it was like a formal business deal, but it went along with a bit of a party where the families got to mingle and learn about each other. At many weddings, the tradition has been kept, but it's just done at the wedding, so it's more ceremonial. But the interesting thing about this is that it goes into detail in it's not really Hebrew, it's an ancient Arabic text. It goes into detail about different details of the wedding, the date, the place, the time, and a few other of the nitty gritty of the wedding itself. It also mentions the families in there, since this is not between the bride and groom, but rather the families as a whole. So we're going to use this now to narrate the next segment. This is read aloud during the cocktail hour, right before the ceremony. And we're going to use it as the narration to show a little bit more of the decor and details, as well as the family portrait sessions, and a little bit more of the bridal portraits that we didn't show earlier. It's going to be tied into a little bit, I guess a little bit like a trailer. Out of order, but in a way that it makes sense. My only issue is that I really want it to start over here where the music gets slow. Alright, this can be made much louder. Here's my effects. I want this to get to about -6, so we'll raise it. Alright, and then at the same time, we're also going to make the music get lower, but I still have to decide where I'm going to weave this in, so. I think I can make it work right there. Let's see if I can get the music to line up seamlessly. Probably more like there. And okay, I think it's gonna work. I just need to fine-tune it a little bit. First I'm going to make sure the timing works, and then I'll adjust where I actually want it to cut so that it makes sense. That actually worked perfectly. Nothing to change right there. So I just manipulated the song a little bit to cut to the point where I want. Let's listen to that again. Adjust the clips a little bit here. Alright, so during this wider shot, we're going to have the audio of that reading begin. We're going to bring that in right here. and when I go through a second time, I'm going to adjust the volume and details again. But we're going to leave it as a little bit of a J-cut here, so what that means is the audio of the next scene is going to start a little bit before the end of the first scene. It helps again with the transition, so you're not suddenly just being transported to a new place and time. It eases you in by first giving you a little audio bite, and then eventually bringing in the other things. Okay. Let's see. Alright, now we're not going to see this reading part yet. We're not quite ready for that yet. We are going to go to the preparation of that document. So now I'm looking for these green clips here I had marked off as significant clips that actually have to do with the the wedding ceremony itself, things that are important. And this is what I want here. I want the writing of the document. Alright, so it's going to begin with these two clips right here. Alright, we're also going to need this clip here of the dad's. This is kind of like the handshake. They lift a handkerchief, or in this case, they lifted a mask, which is somewhat funny and applicable. Right, and then we have this. So again, let's just build our little mini sequence here, and then I'll bring it over. Okay, these are the clips I want to use. There's the groom doing the same thing. And these clips will go a little later. We do have this clip, nice clip of the groom with his dad and the mom and his mom in the background. We'll see if I could use that here. Oh, well, here's his mom giving him a hug. I may need that to go later. Okay, I'm not going to do anything with that yet. Let's start with these. So the first one I need is first I need these two. Right, and he's picking up the paper. So the very next clip, we'll have him holding the paper. Right, and then I'm going to make this clip just fade out to the actual reading. Right, so right at this point, I put a marker there, is actually the first time where he begins mentioning the people involved in this wedding. The first one is going to be the groom's side of the wedding. So we're going to look for the shot of the groom's dad lifting the mask. Right, we're going to fade back in. I'm using the fades here because we're transitioning time. Right? The literal translation of what he's about to say is the groom's father's name, who is representing the side of the family of his son, followed by the groom's name. But the literal translation of the words is so-and-so, father of the groom, who is standing beside his son, the groom. I have the shot of Dad hugging his son. So I know I said just a moment ago that I wasn't going to use that here, but I think I've changed my mind. This one right here. Right, this one here is going to be for the bride, so we're going to go like this. Now I'm going to actually cut the audio of this thing now. So I'm not ready to talk about the bride side yet. I'm going to do here, we're going to do a little time warp and go back to groom portraits. So. No, I still don't like that clip there. So, out it goes. Just make sure it actually drops back in where I needed it. Good, it's back in there. Alright, so now we're getting to bride. Okay, now we're going to get shots of the groom's family. So, groom's family. I have these fun shots in the bar. So we start with a shot of the groom. I love this shot, so we're definitely using it. Question is how. So here he would be getting up. The framing is very similar, so I'm going to see if I can make that work. So he gets up, and then his dad comes in. We'll figure out a way to do it because those are really nice. This is nice, but I kind of like the next set better, and I don't need both. So we're going to go with that. We also need some shots of his family. I'm going to bring back the proxies. Premiere is giving me errors again. So now we have mom. And looks like we froze again. Unknown error. Well, I actually know what that is. Let's just try again. That is actually... No, that shouldn't be doing that. Okay, now it's saved. Right. Let's bring back the proxies and see if we get our picture back. Alright, well, I was actually going to end this video in about 5 minutes anyways. I wanted to show the next, what I was going to do with these family portraits. I guess we'll call it here. I'm going to see if I can run some updates or something, figure out why Premiere is crashing like this now. But I will leave a link to this final edit in the description when it's done, and you'll be able to see how the family portraits were tied into the introduction. This segment of the wedding typically takes the longest, and it's important to spend some extra time on it because it's the first thing people see. You want to leave an impression. You don't want to bore them with things that aren't really important for the wedding. They happen, you need to show them, but it has to fit together, it has to be entertaining. Later on, these remaining parts of the wedding are going to go significantly quicker since most of them are done in sequence, but I do have some very unique methods of making single camera edits just appear more elaborate, more entertaining, give the entire thing more value. With that, I'm going to end this stream, and if you'll check in the description eventually for a link to the final version of this edit, and